I would like to give first the floor to Amre Moussa to speak on the situation in the Middle East and on the situation also perhaps a bit concerning Egypt. We are all curious to hear, and then we will continue. Please.
Well, thank you very much for your invitation and for your introduction. I'm speaking as a private Egyptian citizen, very much concerned about the situation not only in Egypt or in the Arab world, but in the Middle East, the Mediterranean, and relations with the EU. First point is about change. Yes, the Arab world is undergoing a major operation of change. It's not what some Western commentators or policies call the Arab Spring. It is not a spring at all, but it is a change. There will be no return to the status quo ante. That is for sure. Change has become the name of the game, and we are all looking to the future and working to achieve something new, a better life, and a better system. The change brings turmoil with it, and that is what we are facing in Egypt and what other Arabs are facing in Libya, in Syria, in Tunis, and all over the region. When I talk about change in the Arab world, I must double it with the change in the Middle East. Change will touch all countries in the Middle East, and a few years from now, the Middle East will not be the same. The goal is democracy, and the means to achieve those goals is democratic process. It won't be easy, but at the end, the president of Egypt will be an elected Egyptian and not an appointed or selected or imposed, but an elected one. This would apply to all other major important officers in the country, and this will be the fate all over the Arab world, which is absolutely much better than be ruled by dictatorship or by officers that we know their name without any role for the population. Of course, the horizon is open, in particular for the religious organizations, and there will be a role, a color, a contribution by those organizations believing in or calling for religious rule. But as you see in Egypt, it is a 50-50 proposition. The country does not agree with such a proposition, and the country and the people are not ready to be ruled according to religious philosophies or religious plans. What you see in Egypt now is that 50% or more are against returning to the status quo ante, and 50% or more against any religious reference to government. The end will be, after the struggle and the difficult period, there will be a consensus that Egypt should go forward and that the only reference should be the constitution, and the ways and means to achieve that is democratic process. We thought that it would end by the end of this month, as we have agreed, that the transfer of power will take place by the 30th of June, and the president would be seated in his office on the 1st of July. We hope that this will happen after the recount. But from now until the end of this year, the constitutional activities, writing the constitution, electing a new parliament, consolidating democracy, will be the agenda in Egypt for the next 6 months. No matter what happens, there will be an elected president, elected parliament, and a constitution that would cater for the future, upholding human rights, fundamental freedoms, rights of women, the citizenship as the criteria for enjoying rights and obligations, this is very important, not only for Egypt, but for the whole region. That is why many of us in Egypt and in the rest of the Arab world are trying to come together to guarantee that the wind of change will continue to blow and that we will not accept or tolerate any return or defeat of this very strong current calling for change, including revolutions, uprisings, and so on. This would bring me to the second point, which is the region. What should we do with the region? I believe that we are very quickly reaching the point where we should discuss a new regional order. A new regional order based on the change, based on the fact that democracy is prevailing and dictatorship is retreating. A new regional order bringing together the Arab world and the rest of the countries in the Middle East. Also, a new security scheme, regional security scheme. Regional security scheme, regional security planning, by necessity brings the European Union, the Mediterranean basin, together with the Middle East. Because a security system, a regional security system, should not be only an Arab system or purely Middle Eastern system. It has to be Middle Eastern and Mediterranean. The consideration of such a proposal, in my opinion, should start now. We should prepare ourselves to the next stage of relations and next stage of interaction between all the Mediterranean countries, the Arab countries, the Middle Eastern countries in this vast area that was called at a certain moment the Barcelona process or the Mediterranean Union, plus of course the Gulf countries. And here is my third point on this, the role of Europe. The role of Europe is essential. But there was hesitation on the part of European Union and European countries at the beginning of this change uprising or the revolution for change in the Arab world. And when I talk about the role of Europe, I'm not talking about economic aid only or economic contribution or economic policies. I'm talking about reform, the reform. The neighborhood policy, the new addition to the neighborhood policy or the partnership for prosperity, they are all scattered plans. And the neighborhood policy is not really a policy that had succeeded in establishing a platform for relations between European Union and the Arab League members, Arab League countries. To the point that I thought at one time, and talked about that in several think tanks in Egypt and in the Arab world, about raising the proposal of a virtual membership to the European Union. And I thought that Egypt would do that. And had I been elected to the presidency of Egypt, I would have made this one of my first steps to discuss the possibility of creating this new category of membership, virtual membership, that brings together all those schemes of cooperation embedded in the neighborhood policy or other policies and other plans and association agreements and so on, to establish a consolidated plan for relations based on how to reform. And the reform, in my opinion, is not only economic or social, of course those are important things, but also good governance. Here, Europe can really help. We have the Turkish example that Turkey has never become member of the European Union, at least so far. But they committed themselves to the implementation of many of the chapters that have helped Turkey move forward in a very significant and remarkable way. Virtual membership, we know that Egypt, for example, is not a European country, so it cannot claim any right to join the European Union. But creating this new category of virtual membership would bring together perhaps commitments, plans, and open horizons of cooperation, and that would really cater in favor of a better governance on one side and more open policy of cooperation, more productive policy of cooperation on the other side. Having said that, raising those three ideas of virtual membership to the EU, the regional security plan for a vast region, including the Mediterranean and at least the southern flank of the European Union. And the third is the new Arab order, a new Middle Eastern order, political order and economic order. I would be amiss if I do not raise the issue of Palestine as one of the major issues that would make or break the plans for the future on security, on regional order, and on the degree of cooperation between the European Union or any other grouping, important grouping in the world, and the Arab world and the Middle East. I would say that Egypt and all other Arab countries involved, engaged in this spirit of change and process of change, will have to have three important points to base their policy on pertaining to the Arab-Israeli conflict. Number one, the Arab initiative should continue to be the order of the day. So the Egyptian policy should commit itself to the continued support of the Arab initiative as adopted back in 2002, which creates a certain balance between the commitments, the rights, and obligations, what we should do. So, and I predict that the Egyptian policy will follow this line, full commitment to the Arab initiative and no more. The second is full commitment to whatever treaties, contractual agreements that have been reached within the Arab-Israeli conflict, such as the Arab-Israeli Treaty. But the third is full commitment to the right of the Palestinians to have a Palestinian state, a viable state, with East Jerusalem as their capital. And I don't think that what is going on today would be conducive to a changed atmosphere within the framework of the Arab-Israeli conflict. I would say that until now, we don't see that the Israeli government or the Israeli politicians have grasped the importance of the moment, the change in the Middle East, the move towards democracy. They dug in and continue to do everything as usual that would really challenge the Arabs, challenge the international community, and make it very difficult for us to hope to move towards a better situation insofar as the Arab-Israeli conflict is concerned. Now, is there a hope that we would reach a deal? Yes, of course. We need your contribution as EU, and not necessarily to follow any other policy, but to insist that the Palestinian question should be resolved. And I want to tell you, this issue will remain with us, no matter what kind of government that would prevail in the Arab world. There has to be a solution for the Palestinian issue in order for things to fall into place in the Middle East, without which no real regional change would take place. Now, the spirit of change, the process of change, needs to be helped through what I'm saying about proposing of cooperation with the EU, but also the European contribution in solving the Palestinian problem. The Israeli policy to keep things as they are, supported by certain powerful circles, should not deter the European Union from rising to the real challenge and saying, no, this is a wrong thing to keep the Middle East hostage to such a problem because of the narrow-mindedness of some politicians in the region and the blind support given to them regardless of the national interests of other countries. Finally, I would say that we are hopeful, we are optimistic, we know how difficult the moment is, but at the end, it is the change, no return back, no looking back, but going to the future, and this is what we are going to uphold. And the support for it in the Arab world, among the young people, among all generations, support is really assured and very strong for a better future. Thank you.